So, in terms of elections, going back to 2008, there are a lot of young people on the space who do not know what happened. What possibilities were available which Morgan Tsvangirai and the MDC didn't take in terms of dealing with the post election, not the violence itself, but uh, finding ways which could have made sure that Morgan Tsvangirai would go to the State House? What were the available opportunities for them that they didn't take?
Well, we can use 2008 as an example, where clearly Morgan Tsvangirai won the presidential election, and their uh, credible reports to the extent that Mugabe on that night, 31st of March 2008, conceded defeat and informed Obasanjo and Mbeki accordingly, and stood his ground up to the following morning, the following day, Sunday afternoon, when Mnangagwa and Chiwenga prevailed upon him to stand back while the election, the vote counting was stopped, or the announcement thereof, and then there was declared there was a, there was a problem with the results for 5 weeks, and then declared artificially a runoff, and the rest is history. But in retrospect, I mean, serious mistakes were made by the opposition. One, Morgan should not have left the country for Botswana. He should have stood his ground. But he was scared by anonymous calls from state agents, threatened with death, and he ran away. I remember I
Cybersecurity
dragged him to a
companies are
meeting the Sunday when he had to run into hiding. Called him and I ran up to a meeting in the Rainbow Towers, Sheraton, that time. I was chairman of the hotel group, and so we had meetings in that hotel. Ran up with him, and then he was so tired and exhausted, and he stopped in the first flight of stairs and looked at me. He says, "Ibo, aren't you scared?" I said, "Scared of what?" "To be killed." I said, "Morgan, that's what you're scared of, to die? Come on. A leader must not be afraid, you must be in the front line." And when we got into the meeting, Morgan just fell asleep. Poor guy was so exhausted. And the next morning, he was off to Botswana. So that's one big mistake. The capacity to stand up, you know. You see, you can give it to the old nationalists. The old nationalists were prepared to go to jail 10 years, 15 years. And many of us stood up and went into and fought the system, jailed and so on. I just feel that they have just too few in the leadership now, in the opposition, who are prepared to stand up and be counted in similar circumstances as that which the old nationalists did pre-independence. Secondly, I spoke about the history repeating itself every election. Every election disputed, petitions are put in. The petition of 2002 has not even been heard yet before the Supreme Court. The suspicion that the judiciary is captured as evidence not only in the Constitutional Court application in 2018, but even the way that people like Job are being treated at refused bail. You can't help believing that the judiciary is captured. And therefore, well, why should things be different in 2023? But another shocking revelation I should make to you, Hope, is this. I think there are only 150,000 new voters When we think of, in contrast to Zambia, where the youth were the determining factor in the outcome of the elections last year, they registered in big numbers. In Zimbabwe, 150,000 only new voters, which means we're really talking about the same number of voters as they were in 2018, 5.8 million voters. And most of them likely to, like most middle classes, tend to vote cautiously, rather vote for what is or abstain than vote for what they're not sure of. And clearly, there's a disconnect between the massive turnouts at rallies for Shamisa on the one hand and the likely turnout at elections in 2023 on the other. That's a very scary scenario. So, if there's still room for the youth to register in their big numbers, and we're talking about a population of 16 million, 70% of whom are 30 years and younger, there is no way there can be change, at least at the ballot, without at least 50% of those numbers turning up at the polls, in the assumption that most of them, majority of them, are opposed to ZANU-PF. So the scary reality is that history is likely to repeat itself next year unless something drastic happens between now and then.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mandaza. What role